We've been talking about March Madness. You've been absolutely crushing it on Sportsline and on this show with your picks. Let's try to keep it going. But one thing I'm interested in as we approach March Madness, which by the way is like just around the corner, are there any sleepers where we see really long odds right now? And I know we probably want to wait for seedings to come out in brackets, but are there any sleepers that you at least have your eye on, maybe to lay a couple of bucks down on?
Yeah, there's a few teams I like, and again, these teams probably aren't going to win the NCAA tournament, right? You're looking for a run where you can lock in some money at bigger odds. Florida was the first team I bet back last April at 100-1 because there was rumors they were going to get all these transfers. They got them. They started the year off a little slow, which I expected, but they're starting to turn it on now. And what I like about Florida is they're one of the top offensive rebounding teams in the country. That's a metric I look at in the NCAA tournament because you're going to have a day when you don't shoot the ball well, and you got to hit the boards in those games. And so Florida to me is one of the 8-9 teams right now that if they win in the first round, they can give a team trouble in the second round. Dayton is another team I bet to make the Final Four this summer. Now, they took a big blow. They lost Malachi Smith early, which really impacts that team. But they've still had a great season. And listen, when you have Deron Holmes on your team, a future NBA player, that's a team that can do some damage. Again, first round, you got to get by. San Diego State, FAU, they almost lost in the first round last year, made the Final Four. So if they get by that first round game, I think Dayton's a team that can do some damage. TCU is probably the one I like the most. This is an experienced team. They do a lot of things well. They shoot well. They got great guard play. And because they're in the Big 12 with all those good teams, it kind of forgotten about a little bit. Yeah. But they've won on the road. So that's a team I really like if they get a good seeding and good matchups to make a run. And then if you're looking for a really deep sleeper, Nevada, now they're not a lock to get in yet, but if they make the tournament, that's a team that can just bother you with the way they play. They play slow. They're good defensively. They got a couple of guys who can score. That if you're looking for like this year's San Diego State who could come from the back of the pack and make a run, I think Nevada can give some teams problems if they get the right early matchups.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, the two that really stick out to me are TCU. I think it's a really good, gritty veteran team. Love that number. And Florida, I like a lot too. By the way, David talks in the chat. Oh, excuse me. Well, he might have something to say, but it's Rick Funcannon. He says no Richmond. I mean, Richmond can't be on your radar here in this context. Can it?
Well, listen, we don't know who's going to make the tournament yet. Show me the first round matchups, and I'll give you my real sleepers. It's hard. I think. Listen, there's teams like James Madison and Appalachian State who have a lot of talent, right? That could make a run. South Florida teams like that. If they get those right, it always matters on that first weekend. What's your first round matchup and what's your potential second round matchup? Because then once you get to that next week with a Sweet 16, then everybody resets. So that's what I like to look at. If you're looking for like sleepers and long shots in the NCAA tournament, that's what I would do. Look at your path. Like I like Florida's path a lot better if their second round game is Houston and not UConn. I think UConn, they don't match up well with UConn, but I think they can hit the boards with Houston and play with the Cougars. So that's really when you start to dive into sleepers, is when you see what is the path for some of these teams to make an Elite Eight Final Four run.